I was telling some people this morning before everybody got here, they said on Channel 3 this morning that IT or tech jobs in Springfield are up 70%. I don't remember what that time frame was they were measuring. But remember, these people going to skills and winning medals and stuff and making Springfield look good, that's one of the reasons why we have all these jobs, so keep it up. Okay, now I want to start looking at things. Let's refresh ourselves on where we were here. For this game, we had set up this eagle scene, because remember it's based on that castle. And I want to look at, we just have our main camera and our GUI camera. We haven't done too much with either one of them. We set them, you know, to be like solid colors instead of skyboxes and things like that. But the important stuff that we did were in our resources folder. We took that tiles thing and chopped it all up so that we have the individual tiles. Remember that map is set up. They said every item is labeled as a 2-digit hex number. So as we go across, I'm going to do a bunch of numbers here and you'll be like, I know all of those numbers. Bless you. And I'm run out of space for F. So since we're doing hexadecimal numbers, every row is going to go from 0, 0 to 0F, 1, 0 to 1F. And then since we just have this nice hex numbering system, it sort of gives us a unique identifier for each of our tiles. So we saw that if we look at this Delver data text file, if I can find it, try to open it in Visual Studio, it makes more sense there. It's taking a bit. So we see all of these different hex values are identifying the exact tile number that's supposed to be placed in that spot to draw the castle that we want to draw. So yeah, somebody sat there with some graph paper and identified every single tile location that they want to be applied there. So that's pretty cool, really neat stuff. We started with some scripts. And let's see where we left off. I think we were in our tile camera script. Let's check. Yeah, so we had let off here in our tile camera script. And let me get to a point where I can zoom in. There it goes. Right here on line 38 was one place where the textbook was a little hard to read. And so we weren't sure exactly what was supposed to go there. And it looks like what's supposed to go there for that split character is a space. So I want to make sure I have a single quote, space, single quote. And then the same thing is true just a little further down for mine on line 51. I want to make that split character be a space. Now let's run it, and where we left off last time, we weren't seeing the output messages that we were supposed to see about the size of the map. So I'm going to run now and see if we're seeing those messages. Which one? What do you see?
Does array index is out of range, index out of range exception?
I didn't get that.
Tile camera CS line 54 and line 20.
You're not getting that either. Do I?
My console's not outputting anything.
Okay, so if you're not getting anything, go to your main camera and make sure that that script is associated with your main camera, that tile camera script. And then the tile camera script has some settings, and we might have to fix these again. You know how sometimes it doesn't keep track of things. So our map data should be the Delver data file from your resources. The map tiles should be all that whole set of Delver tiles. The declarations on the collisions is Delver collisions. And then the tile prefab is our tile under the prefabs.
I'm getting map size is 96 wide by 66 high.
That's what we should be seeing. So what we want is that message about our map size. Yes, sir?
Input string was not the correct one. Mine still gives me an array indexes out of range.
Let's put you on the screen. You want to fix it. Okay, Edward, I'm going to stop my share. All right, sir, show us yours. Let's figure out what's going on.
Index out of range, something array indexes out of range in the tile camera at line 54 and 22.
Mm-hmm.
This is my line 54.
Tile isn't telling them supposed to be the space.
I thought you were talking about on 51.
She mentioned it in both.
Oh, sorry.
And it has single quotes.
Huh?
Single quotes, not double quotes. Oh.
Is that what yours is too, Isaac? No, that's
Well,
not.
It says operator evil cannot be applied to operating.
Go back. On line 38, I think. Let's see.
38.
Right. So string, yep, tile nuns, dot split.
Oh, there it is. Then put that other one back. Wait.
Oh, right. Yep, my bad.
That's okay. They all look alike. So that one should be the double quotes with the 2 dots.
Yep.
Okay. And in line 22, which is this load map.
So that should be okay because that's just the call. So try it now and let's see.
There it is.
There it is. Okay, good.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. How's yours, Isaac? Is it okay? No? Okay. Share with us, please.
Okay.
We'll fix you up. That split looks good.
the same thing.
Yeah, where's the,
That one right there needs to be a space, and not up here.
this one right here, 39? Try it now. Save it. Yay. Okay, so exciting to see those numbers. Yay. I'm going to share mine again.
You had it for you as well.
We fought with it. I was disgusted that we were so close last time. Okay, share yours. What's going on? I'll stop. Take it over. Huh?
Even let me select a brand new prefab. Just create an empty prefab and it won't even select that.
It's mad at you?
Yes.
Why?
It does not want prefab.
For what?
On the main camera, the tile prefab
Mm-hmm.
won't let me even select a brand new prefab.
Did you start with that zip file?
Find the zip file.
It's on the announcements in Canvas.
Oh, it's under the announcements.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it looks good.
Okay.
So the line 21 is the call to the method, and then the line 55 is this right here.
Split, split. Let's see in Unity where the script is associated with the camera. So that all looks right. Input string was not in the correct format. Did you save in Visual Studio? Are you sure? Still doing it?
Can you go back?
Back to what?
To the code.
Well, he saved his, he's got green markers on the left there, like he just changed something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he needs to control S or something.
He saved again.
It's weird. That
Keeps, it certainly looks like it's not saved.
I think it's showing green because Visual Studio recognizes that it's a GitHub repository, and so it's like, hey, you changed those.
Yeah, and they've been saved
Yeah.
because they're green. Once they're green, they're okay. So how come the one is highlighted with like a white the tick marks and the other one they're red?
Where?
Like line 47, the two single quotes are red. And
Line 47.
line 36, they're not. They're white.
I don't know. What are you talking about? On line 36.
See how
inside
these ones are white?
The split, the single quotes are white. And then on line 47, they're red.
Oh, and up here we got a red and a white. Maybe we can't depend on that color coding. But I wonder if you should just
honestly can't see.
backspace that and type it again.
Orange.
Yeah, backspace it, type it again. I don't know. Just the single quote space part.
Right here.
Yeah. Backspace the whole thing to make sure you just have one space. It looks like two spaces. Try your other one. It looks like one. But when you backspaced, it acted like there were two spaces there, so. Spaces are so wonderful.
Well, when does it say it's on 55?
But it says it's right
The map one? And not the phone.
That's mine, sorry.
there. Line 21 is just the call.
Mm-hmm. Why don't you grab that zip file?
What's up?
You want to grab that zip file?
Okay.
Or is this where, I mean, it shouldn't be any different, but I don't see it. So we don't want to fight with it forever. We'll let you figure it out. You can report back to us. He'll figure it out. Okay, while Dylan's grabbing that and fixing that little part, what we want to do now is actually display our map, right? We finally have got the code working where it's loading it, so let's look at it so we can actually see it. That's what we were wanting to do all along. So in your tile camera script, whoops, where am I? I froze up there. In our load map method, at the end of our load map, they want us to call show map. I want you guys to think about that. You know how sometimes our textbook doesn't necessarily follow the best C# programming practices? Should we call show map from load map, or should we call show map from awake? What do you think? If we put it in awake, it'll only happen that first time we run, right? And if we want to show our map every time we load it, we could be calling this load map from other events. So we better do it the way he says and put it in our load map method, because we could end up calling load map from someplace else. So we're going to just put in that call, and then let's create that method. We've got all of the tiles in place. Oops. So start using them. So we're going to allocate an array. And we're going to run through that map, that layout kind of thing, and instantiate tiles where necessary. So any place we want something to show up. So those areas where we had the spaces, we don't necessarily need anything to show up. Now we're going to have an outer for loop that's going to be controlled by a variable j. We're going to start with j at 0 and run while j is less than our height. We'll increment j for each loop. Now within our j loop, we want an I loop. And again, we're going to start with I equals 0, and we're going to control I by our width. Oops. So I less than uppercase W. And then we're going to increment I. I'm trying to do that. No spaces like he has in the textbook, and Visual Studio is just really upset about it. Now within that inner for loop, we're going to have an if statement. So we've already built this map, right, that's got all this information in it. We're going to take that position from our map that we just built and check to make sure it's not equal 0, because those positions we don't need to place a tile. And if it's not equal 0, we're going to instantiate a tile. We'll name it TI. It doesn't matter, it's just kind of a temporary name. And we're going to instantiate. Now we're going to use the greater than, less than brackets to specify what type of object we want to instantiate. We want to instantiate a tile object, and we want to use our tile prefab as the base. Now we're going to do a transform on that instance to associate it with our anchor. Now we need to create our set tile method for our tiles, or it's mad at me about the way I'm trying to use it. Let's see. Ah, thank you. It was helping me. And then we're going to add it to our little array of tiles here that we're creating. That should do it. I'll label some of these. So the end of our if, and then we have the end of our inner loop. And Visual Studio is really mad at me about this, so I'm going to go ahead and put curly braces around this outer loop. In the textbook they don't, so I was trying to do it that same way, but it's very mad at me. Clean up some messes here. Try that again. So let's see what we've got. I'm going to save everything and see. Yay! Yay! So we have our tiles placed in the way that we want them. How does it look? So everybody got them? Woohoo! What's the matter? Share with us. Let me unshare here. Share with us. Let's see what's going on. Get them all working. Okay, so let's see. I say yours is curly braces. So let's add one more set of closing curly braces there. All right. And then what is wrong with your set tile call? It doesn't like that. Let's look at your tile script.
What about it?
Does that look like you guys'? I don't have mine open. Let me open mine. Yeah, that looks right. Make it public. That method, set tile, since you're calling it from that other class. So right before the keyword void, you want that public. Now you should be able to access it from your tile camera script. So let's.
I'm still getting the skybox.
There we go.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So look at your camera. Good job. Okay, you're gonna take it over. So
Shouldn't be skybox.
on your main camera, under background,
Okay.
or under clear flags, make it say solid color. And then you'll be able to set your background color, and we set ours to black. Okay, what's going on with it? Oh, you're missing stuff? Let's stop running and let's maximize on play and see if it does the same thing. Yeah, go to game and maximize on play and run.
Well, wasn't here last time, and
Did you go to your main camera?
I don't know what's wrong with it. What do you guys think? Why is he missing part of the stuff?
I'd assume it's a loop issue.
The loop issue?
Is that how it's working?
Or the,
Is it looping out and placing all them tiles down? And stop.
yeah, something's not quite right with it. Okay, there's the main camera. Hang on just a second. I'm going to look at this main camera for a sec. I wonder if you got the map file messed up, Tyler. Check that text file and see if it's got some weird stuff that doesn't show the whole thing properly. Well, maybe it got messed up in the network.
Yeah, mine is directory not found exception.
Oh, yeah?
Referring to,
Did you extract everything?
I remember someone in the class gave me a zip file. And I think it might have done.
You extracted it first before you opened it, right? In Unity, you extracted the zip file.
I think. Oh, that might be the issue.
Make sure you extracted the zip file. You can't be running it if it's not extracted. If you need to extract it, close Unity and do that before you open it again. Always extract, always extract. Okay, that'll probably fix some. Let's see what we've got. What I want to do is continue on because our next step is going to be adding our player. And we can continue on with that even if your thing isn't looking perfect, as long as it's not got errors. So does anybody have errors that we need to fix?
Can I see the, I got down to the di.set file IJ.
Oh, okay. Well, Tyler still has my screen. Let me steal it from him. We'll figure out what's going on with his. Okay, so here's this. Here is our tile camera script. You find it? So while everybody's finding the last few things, remember, all of these pieces had to fit together, right? Because as we're extracting all of these tiles and they all have their individual number, that has to match up with the resolution, right? The aspect ratio of the screen we're displaying on, or else we're not going to get things laid out right the way we want. So we would have to have different text files for different resolutions if we wanted to be able to play on different resolutions.
And it should be open.
Let me double check, but I think you have it. So the resolution should be, how do we set that? We went to game. Oh, no, it's not right. 1080p. So remember, we had to go in and add with the little plus, add new item, and add that 1080p. And we said 1080p was 1920 by 1080. And then that's what kind of resolution we want for those tiles to lay out properly. So you might have to change that manually, even if you copied that zip file. It should have retained it, but you know how sometimes it doesn't.
That's the Unity launcher preset.
Got it?
I think I see my problem. There is one zip folder. So wouldn't it need to be unzipped? Or have to take a t-shirt?
Well, that one was that starter. I think we already
Yeah.
So, do you want me to be okay?
I did have it open. Yeah. And good news, I have gotten a head start on the project this summer. I also get a CD.
I guess it is maybe, but maybe it's right. Right.
So it should just be using system because the console comes from system. That way it's
I let you back on.
So it was fine. I use this cloud thing.
Which I don't even.
So I tried to but yeah. Solution wasn't enough for some reason. So I just looked at that.
Commercial that. Yeah. Store market that, so you can just see if that one fits in your business. But the only person who reads that, they do grant. Yes, more than that. She's right. What if you're generating that? So then in the for loop, you initiate the pile object. Where's that pile object reference? Oh, okay. Because you pile.
Yeah, it's weird. I'll figure it out.
Oh,
Try it some different ways.
what's pile? Which is like a grade. And like where do you write that tile? You see like a new tile. Where do you define the tile type?
I'm not sure. I just.
That's amazing.
Okay, we can get everybody to the right place. We all want to get there because we're going to look at some animations really quick. And it's going to generate some of them for us based on the little sprites that we use. So it's pretty neat, but if we don't stay together, we'll probably never get there. So let's see what we can do. The first thing we want to do is create a script. So let's go to our scripts folder. Am I sharing my screen? Make sure I am. Yes, okay. And in your scripts folder, let's create a new C# script. And we want this one to be Dre. That's going to be our player. So I want to edit that script. Come on, Visual Studio, let me zoom in. Eventually. All right, so for Dre, let's start out in our class with some header stuff. We'll identify some of our variables. And first, we're going to have our variable that we can manipulate in the inspector. It's going to be our speed.
Did you make a new script?
Yes, Dre. So make a new script named Dre, and then we want to set up this header and our speed variable. Now after those, let's use that header again. And this time, we want to say these things are set dynamically. So we're going to use this variable for what direction they're moving their keys, like if they're going to the left or to the right or whatever, so that we know what direction to move the character. We're going to make another variable there that we'll set dynamically. And this is going to be a private one, and it'll be a rigid body. We're just going to call it rigid. For this script, we don't need a start method, but we want to use the awake event instead. So as we wake up, we want to get that rigid body component and place it in our rigid variable. So we've got all that information. Now we are going to use the update. So in our update method, we're going to be checking to see what key the user is pushing to decide which direction our character should go. So let's update our dir held variable, and we'll set it back to -1 as we start our method, so we know it's always initialized. Let's put a comment there. Reinitialize our variable. And then let's check our keys. So not too glamorous here. We're going to use the input class
get which key is being pushed. And in order to interrogate that, we have to be looking at the key codes that are returned by that key. So the first thing we want to check for is the right arrow. So if they're pushing the right arrow, we're going to update our dir held variable to say 0. Now we want to do the same thing basically. And we're going to check for key code dot up arrow. And if they're pushing the up arrow, we want to change our variable equal to 1. And we're going to use these numbers as like indexes, make it easier to move around. Now if our key code is the left arrow, then we want to update our variable to be 2. And finally, if the key code is the down arrow, then we want to set our direction to be 3. Now pretty easily, we're going to control that here. Let's set up a vector3 variable, and we'll call it VEL for our velocity. And we're going to set it to vector3.0. Wow, are we having more IntelliSense working? Yay! I wonder what happened. It's like a miracle occurred or something. I was like, man, I'm like at home. It's kind of working. Now I'm going to do a switch command, and I want to look at that dir held variable in my switch case statement. So in our switch statement, we're going to say if dir held is 0, we want to set our velocity to the right. It's doing semicolons for me too, messing me up. And then we want to break out of our select case. Now, if they were pushing the up arrow, we want to set our velocity up appropriately. Vector3.up. And then break. For our 2, we were doing left, so we want vector3.left. And break out of our case statement. And lastly, if they were pressing the 3, we want to set our velocity to vector3.down. And then break. So our switch statement is going to take care of setting up our velocity based on the key codes that were entered. We're going to see in a little while too why we didn't just set vectors, velocity equal vector3.right there in that if statement, why we're using these dir held variables, because it's going to help us in another area. Now at the end of our switch statement, we're going to go ahead and update that rigid body's velocity with our new directional variable times the speed. I'm in some weird mode here, not looking at what we want. Okay, so let's add Dre. We've got our code here. Let's set up our sprites so that we have this player object. I'm going to save everything here. Yes, sir? Uh-huh. Tell me when.
Like very top.
Very top. Let me try. I can't get this stupid thing. If you got it, you keep moving it.
Yeah, I think I got it.
Think you got it? Okay, we'll come back to our script in a minute. Let's check one thing and then we'll add our sprites. Now, whenever we're working with these like 2D things or 8-bit style graphics like these are, we can have trouble because Unity uses anti-aliasing. Anti-aliasing is oversampled rendering. I'm reading this to you, where Unity creates a larger image of the screen in memory and then downsamples it to make graphics appear smoother, with the default setting being 2 times multi-sampling. 2 times multi-sampling is a method of oversampling where Unity renders an image at double the size of the screen and then shrinks it down, blending the pixels in the process. This works really well for 3D graphics, but it can make 2D graphics look like the zoomed in area where the edges of the tiles overlap instead of being perfectly side by side. So we want to turn off that anti-aliasing to make sure we're getting the correct look. So let's go to the Unity menu bar. And on the menu bar, we want to choose Edit, Project Settings. And then from Project Settings, we want Quality. You'll see it show up over here in your inspector window. And we want to click on Ultra up here in our quality settings. Now, once you've got that Ultra row selected, we want to make sure that the anti-aliasing is disabled. If you notice, mine was, I didn't have to make any changes to that, but I wanted to show it to you in case that was something that caused trouble. Now, another way that we can do it, let's try this because it works, I think something actually that does have an impact on our version of Unity. Select both your main camera and your GUI camera. And then here where it says MSAA, MSAA stands for multi-sample anti-aliasing. And I notice how it's got a hyphen there. To me, that means one of the cameras has it turned on and one of them has it turned off because it can't display it for us. So click that to just make it completely false, and then it should be turned off for both of our cameras. That's probably our GUI camera that had it turned on, so it probably wouldn't have affected us. So I think this version of Unity was able to know that it wanted to make that change. Okay, so our hero here, our player, is Dre, and we've already seen from our script file that he's going to face like 4 directions. We're going to be able to move forward, backwards, left, and right. Now, we're also going to be adding like a lunging pose and a sword. So let's work with our sprites. I want to find the Dre sprites, and they're not where they say they are in the book. So let's look at textures and materials. And in textures and materials, you should find the Dre sprite. Click that arrow, the disclosure triangle. And then as you mouse over the different Dre's, you have to almost click on them. You'll see the sprite down here in this corner window, this preview area, and you can see the file name for that particular sprite. So the first ones that we want to find are, if you notice, they also are named in kind of the hex same aspect as we saw the other tiles being named. The first ones we want to find are Dre Walk 0A and Dre Walk 0B. So these are the walking forward sprites. So if I click on them, you can see them in that preview area. Select both of them and drag them up to your hierarchy. When you release them, a pop-up will display asking you if you want to save this animation. We do want to save this animation, but let's create an animations folder. Okay, so if you're with me, click on Assets, and in your Assets, we want a new folder. We're going to name it _animations. And then let's save Dre _walk _0 is our first animation. Now, when you save this, it's going to create several things.
I don't think you saved it in animation before.
Did I not? Where did I save it?
You
Save it.
saved in assets.
Oh, good. I'll move it. Didn't even create my animations folder. So, did I get it created someplace else? I will create it again. Create folder _animations. And then I'll move them into it since I didn't do it properly. Now, in your animations folder, got everything there. We should see a couple of things, and the things are those ones that I just moved into it. So we have two things. We have the animation is Dre Walk _0.anim. So if you click on it, you should see that name down here. This animation includes the two images of Dre walking to the right. So it just kind of created for us automatically. And then the other file is an animator, which stores several different animations and controls when to show each one. So in our hierarchy screen, we got something created, Dre _walk _0A, that has the Dre Walk 0 animator attached. This is the main game object for our hero. So let's do a couple renames before we do anything else. Select your Dre Walk 0A object in the hierarchy and rename it to Dre. Then they would like the animator, so I'm going to say is this one, to be renamed to Dre _animator. Now, if you double click the Dre animator, you'll see the animator tool open up. Did you see it? Did it pop up? Now, if you click on the one that has the kind of play icon, that won't open the animator, but the other one will, the controller. Now, as you look, notice that the animator has its own tab, and this little eye icon, if you click on it, it'll kind of close out some of those unnecessary items, and then you can click the eye, closed eye, to bring them back. Now we're looking at layers and parameters, so lots to our animation, but we want to just get started here. We could kind of move things around if we want to rearrange the way it looks. We don't really need to do too much. with our animation right now because it's just this basic 2 sprites. So let's click on our Dre object in our hierarchy and give him a position. Let's have him display at 23.5, 5, whoops, quit it, and 0. So he should be right there in the main camera. Let's try it. I think he's there. I'm not seeing him. Is yours there?
Yeah.
Ah. So we're going to have to fix it if you're not seeing him. What we need to do is layer things properly. So I think that I'm seeing Dre, but I think he's under my tiles. So I'm going to do some layering here. Are you with me? Everybody with me? So I've got Dre selected here, and what I want to look at is in the animator area. Oh, nope, sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Sprite renderer. We want this sorting layer. And right now our sorting layer is set to default. If you click on that drop down for the sorting layer, you can add sorting layers. So let's do that, add sorting layer. So the first one that we would like to add, I'm going to click the plus sign to go into add mode. And the first one that we want to add is going to be Dre. Then we want to add another layer for ground. We'll go ahead and add enemies. And then items. Now notice we're going to leave that default layer, so if we didn't set some things layer, it would be in that default layer. So let's arrange them now the way we would like these layers to display. We'd want the ground to be at the very bottom, so we want it first. And then after, on top of the ground, we can have our default. And then, what do we want? Enemies. And then Dre. And lastly, items. So that if he's holding his sword or something like that, that'll be the top layer that we can see. Now, after we've got our sorting layers created, we want to assign them to our objects. So let's click on Dre, again in the hierarchy. And now under his sprite renderer component, let's change that sorting layer to Dre. And we need to change the sorting layer for our tiles. So we're going to have to go to our prefabs and find that tile and change that sorting layer to ground. I'm going to go ahead and save the scene and save the project and run it and see if Dre shows up on top of the map. Hey, yay. Not moving anywhere. Why is he not moving? Did we associate his script with him?
It's not his position.
Huh?
It has to do with his position.
Well, let's make sure his script is associated with him.
And that too.
So I'm going to add a script there. My Dre didn't have his script yet. Yours might have. Now if I run I should be able to. Like Alex said, we'll be fixing him.
I actually do remember something too. Whenever there was also for every time that you have an enemy not move,
Mm-hmm.
or should I say, you have to make an enemy character not move. You also have to have a default.
Oh, so that it'll know what to
So
do.
that way it'll know.
Now it says he can run to the right. Items you might Dre run to the right, but that's okay. We'll fix it. Are you there? Is it good? What you got?
When I tried to associate the Gray script with Gray,
Uh-huh.
it keeps giving me a ton of errors that I'll say there is no rigid body attached to the Gray game object. You probably need to add a rigid body to the game object. Okay. Or your script needs to check if the component is attached before using it.
Let's go ahead and show it to us. I'm going to stop my share. Okay.
It says there's 134 of them.
Well, that's okay. So let's look at Dre, or let's look at your script. Where is it talking about there?
I don't know. You mean online photo?
Yeah.
Did you guys delete your directional light?
Uh-huh.
Also, I didn't want the movie camera.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
You added it in?
What should I do?
Because I don't think we had too much changes for it.
Huh?
Look at, I don't see anything.
Oh, there we go. It still says those errors though,
Yeah.
and they keep generating. I still can't do it.
Yeah, I can't move either. That's okay. Let's keep going with our stuff, and then we'll see if that fixes some of those problems. Because it could be that. So we're going to add a few more animations so that we have our other movements. So first, let's tweak the one that we have. So right now, he's just running pretty quick. They say he can run to the right. My guy just sits there in the middle running really fast. So what we want to do is come with me here. See the game screen? See the little 3 arrows up here? The 3 lines? Click there. And we want to choose Add Tab. And the tab we want to add is Animation. Notice that's different than Animator, right? So Animator is the animator tool that lets you drag and drop and do different animations pretty quickly. And then the animation tool gives you kind of a timeline for your animation. So different tools that allow you to do different things. Our animations are going to be super basic, so we won't get a lot of opportunity to interact with these tools, but you'll know they're out there and how to work with them a little bit. So I've got that thing showing now, and I want to select Dre, and then see over here in this area of the animation window where it says Dre, click that exposure triangle so that you see the Dre sprite over to the side there. Does everybody see that? I mean, like 20 minutes last night, so some of these things are really hard to find. Okay, so now we see that, and there is a pop-up menu over here that's talking about that animation. And we want to find this samples setting. And instead of 12 samples, we want to change it to 10. And that's going to cause them to take about 5 steps per second. Now let's see if we can see this movement. Switch to your scene pane. Double click on Dre to focus him in your hierarchy. And then click the animation play button. Can you see it? Where am I? There it is. It's not doing anything. Is it doing anything? I got it to do something last night. Should be able to click and play and see that animation. You think it's the game window that we want to look at, not the scene?
When I
No,
was
he's
doing
still
this,
not doing
I
it.
took my animation tab and put it down with my console.
Let's
Yeah,
do
I
that.
have it.
So we can see it better,
Yeah,
like that.
or yeah, that works too. I think that's the only problem is just see both of them open.
There it goes. So that default setting, the way they open, makes it really hard to mess with it. But if you get them separated, then you've got all these controls that you can use for your animation. So now our timeline down here at the bottom is reflecting that 10 samples. If you changed it to 50, you'd be able to see how fast the samples are on that timeline and how much faster he's going.
Kind of like looks like you're reaching from Mario Bros.
Going super fast. Double time, double time. Okay, so we can see our animation that way. Now, I want to stop playing that animation. So let's add some more animations of Dre for us. So we've got our first one, but we need to add some more. So I'm going to fix my animations folder because I'm having issues. Make sure I don't mess up my animation. Okay, he's still working. Okay, so I want to go back to the textures and materials and expand all of the Dre sprites. And we want to find Dre Walk 1A and 1B. So there's 1A, and I'm going to select both of those. Dre Walk 1A and Dre Walk 1B, and I want to drag those two then up to the hierarchy. And I'm going to save them in my animations folder as Dre underscore walk underscore 1. Now on Dre walk 1, I want to change our sample rate to 10. You know what? I don't know if I did that one right because we want to create a new clip within that other animation. Let's delete this Dre Rock 1A and then go to the animation selector menu. And what we're looking for is create new clip. Do what?
state machine, not a clip, unless I'm looking at.
Where should we go?
I just right-clicked and it said copy current state machine while I have the Dre walk 0 to
Under the animations folder.
underneath the animator side of the that little orange box that is dragged off your screen. Your animator tab.
Mm-hmm.
You have the boxes. The entry is pointing at your Gray Walk 0 animation. And if you were to grab the Gray Walk animation by selecting it, and then right click, you can copy current state.
Yeah, that's not what we want to do, though. We want to create a new clip.
To create a new clip, I think you have to go where that where it says the animation itself, the Dre walk. You can actually click on that.
This one?
Or no.
This one?
Right up.
Take it.
Right up here, I think. If I remember correctly, you can click up there. No. Right. Where it says Dre walk 0.
Right here?
Yeah, it's right there, I think.
Click on the name and bring up the drop down.
At least it did when I had it.
Someone's going to have to come take my mouse. It's making me crazy.
Hey, Alex, show her on her computer.
Yeah, do it.
I'm sorry.
I don't see it.
That's what I found weird about it. Oh, okay. Do you? I'm trying to remember how I did this a little bit, but essentially, I whenever normally at least when I was doing it, there was whenever you went over here, there was a pop up to where you would be able to.
Just left click it and then it'll drop down.
Oh, left click here.
Yeah, on the name of the. Oh, it's not working.
Yeah, that's weird. Cause that's what I do.
Left click the name and it'll show the animation. You can uncheck it or right below it is create the clip.
Oh, maybe it's here. Add property. No.
Get up here, David. Do it.
Yeah, you might want to.
Get up here and do it. Quit talking. Come on. Let's show us.
I remember this. It's just like only remember.
We need
this.
your help.
I only remembered it as.
It all worked last night. I don't understand.
So you just left click on the name here, but it seems to not be working with yours. And I'm wondering if, because I have mine brought down here, I don't think that would have anything to do with it. Your game's not playing, same state is fine. Have that selected. Right, there we go.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
You have to have your element selected, and then you can select the animation. As you can see, that was
Okay, cancel and tell everybody else.
okay.
Okay, he's got it. Watch. Let's see.
Okay. There is no object selected, so you can't really edit the. Oh, it's still letting you do it now. Okay. So make sure you select. See how it no longer shows. Select your element up here, and then you can left click on the name down here to make new clips.
All right. Sorry about that. Got sidetracked with the 50 billion menus. Thanks, you guys. I knew we weren't in the right place. We just couldn't get to it. Okay, so let's create our new clip. And we want Dre Walk 1 animation. Yes, I want to replace it. Wiser's not working. And then whenever we're saving that one for Dre Walk 1, we want to set our samples from 60 to 10.
Which animation do we use?
the 1A and 1B, or the sprites.
You mean 0 and 1 then?
1A and 1B. Okay, so now I don't have my sprites in my animation yet because we created the animation. So go to your project window, and I'm going to go back. I've got to move this animation window up away from my project window because I need to be able to get to both of them. So let me see if I can get that back over here kind of in the middle, and you might get everything rearranged in a way you like it. But I want to get down to that textures and materials folder, to my Dre sprites, and I got to find that Dre walk 1A and 1B again, because I did the drag and drop creation, which is not what we wanted to do. What I was doing was going to end up creating a whole nother animation. We don't want a whole nother one. We just want more movements in this one. So that's why it was important for us to find that. So now that I have walk 1A and 1B sprites selected, I'm just going to drag them and drop them on the animation timeline. That should populate my animation walk 1 thing. Now I can be sure by clicking on Dre, going to my scene, and clicking my play on my animation tool. And now I see him walking backwards. You make sure you make it 10. Okay, so now that we've got that created, we want to do the same thing for a few more. So right click on your Dre walk 1, or just click on the up down arrows and choose create new clip. This one, we want it to be Dre walk 2. Now the sprites that we want for this one are Dre walk 2A and 2B. Select them both, drag them and drop them on the timeline. Once you've dropped them on the timeline, again, you should be able to click on your Dre sprite and click the play button in your animation tool. Whoa, my sample's a little too high.
Yeah.
Set that back to 10.
Yeah, it's preset at 60.
Should be good. Now he's walking that direction.
I set mine to 10, now it doesn't move at all.
Are you pushing play?
Yeah,
Make sure you got both sprites in that animation.
I do, but I think it's still like far apart.
Oh, okay. Now, we've got 0, 1, and 2. Let's create another new clip. This is going to be Dre walk 3. And for Dre walk 3, we want 3A and 3B. Drag them on your timeline. You can click on your Dre character and make sure you can see it. Go that direction. Coming right at you. Now I'm going to check my animations. We should have Dre walk 0. One, 2, and 3. And let's save. Now, before our script is going to work properly, as you may have seen from all these error messages you're getting, we need to add a rigid body component to our Dre object. So I've got my Dre object selected. In the inspector, I'm going to add a component. Physics, rigid body. And for Dre, we want to uncheck use gravity. And then we want to set up some of those constraints. So we want to set freeze position Z to true. And then we want to freeze rotation X, Y, and Z to true. Why do we want to freeze position Z? Because it's not a 3D game, so we don't want it looking like it's moving back and forth. Now, let's save your scene. Again. And let's save your project. Now that we added that rigid body, how are things working?
Now he doesn't move it. Oh wait. Oh wait, he does.
Do you move in?
Mine's not animated though.
Well, what's wrong with your animations?
I don't know.
Have you found that animator tool?
Yeah.
Does it show them when you're not?
It shows that it's still on gray walk 0. There's like a blue bar.
Okay. We take a look at it.
Oh, I know we change animation, so we haven't set it. We only have it preset to be first animation.
Mine's not animated at all.
If you go to your animator,
Is he moving? Let's get everybody's moving. Now we're at a really good spot here, and we have a lot to do with this game, but I think that we've accomplished a lot as far as looking at the sprite sheet, slicing it up, knowing how this mapping is working, that's relating everything back to the sprites. You got your first animation. So let's get everybody's working up to this point, but then we have almost an hour. I'd like to go ahead and split up and let you guys work with your groups for that time that we have left today, because we won't be meeting next week. And the week after, we'd like to see those games and we'd like to have something. So let's save everything that you've got, and then let's split up into our groups, and we'll fix any problems.
So I grabbed your files and have to do much stuff.
Mhm.
I can keep up. Is there any way you can like read something like a zip file, the one that you have now?
I will. I'll save it. So I'm trying to put them to GitHub and stuff each day that we get done. That are good stopping points. Because oh yeah, yeah, it's just really amazing how fast it goes, and then you're just like, what? Let's look at
Essentially,
So you're in C#1, right?
I was going to
Just simply got started on. Check this out. Last night. As you use the sites, you use that class. More or less, like all these were here. Like trying to recite stuff. All of it. No, see, this is no, this is for it's going through Alright, so this one here is but it's really cool thing for people to So you get that I really want to know, and then like get the forward mixer, like everything really good. So you can use it. This looks cool. So this is that index one, so I want to get 600. Like, and then see if there's two numbers. You can just, if you just choose 7, delete it, it just takes it first. Yeah, at least
And you have to, is it will make sense? Yeah.
I have no idea. All I know is you both have your own.
Yeah, that's right. Every time. So down the we need to and then they say how many elements it has, and then it goes all up. We should look at the original one and then plus whatever it has. So that's not the hard part. The hard part, she has this really she has these that are the arrows. So there's this drop down cosine, sine, tangent. And then so like this is what something is diagonal arrows that point exactly at the corners. Yeah. It's easy to draw. It's horizontal and straight from there. You do it. And then you I don't watch it. I just so trig wasn't my strong suit to begin with, let alone I can't see what so yeah, so my driver code right now is 135 code. Oh, God. We're going to do 2 blocks.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. We want to split this.
Oh, he did.
We're going to do it.
We're going to do it. So, yeah, but it's the exact same. It's just sports. And all sports. So basically, I'm trying to do and we're going to settle it. We can just have it split. We're going to end
One person or we could just keep it. I think that's a cool way to do that. So I said we just make 3 pages and then make your 40 or I'm excited to see the animation stuff. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, like shoot
Honestly, what easier is if I can get
Anthony and
if you want to have a character with an animation, the default, if you don't want to make it, you have to have the default. Have the key pressure. Or button press. Honestly, I will say, I've decided to do it, whether we were doing it as animal, I decided doing something simple. My idea was maybe when I started here, I usually just started something But anyways, this is what I have so far. I basically have the with me. Again, what I'm trying to actually do with this as well is I'm trying to every time you go on, it's going to change one thing. Right. I'm trying to make it easier for what possible. Check it out. Well, just got Audacity downloaded.
Oh, yay. Awesome.
Did you get it? You already mentioned. Oh yeah. Okay. Where did you see your Well, you know how in the 90s a bunch of dogs go out and nobody knew who did it?
I hope that's not the game. I hope that's not the game. I really do.
I said, I can just do that now. What am I doing? They're asking what I'm doing.
I'm thinking.
I was gonna mention
Mhm.
I have been having a little bit of trouble with GitHub itself, but I'm thinking sometime over the summer and stuff. I actually was planning either that or towards the end of the semester.
Mhm.
Luckily, there's some people at the tutoring center that know how that works a lot
Uh-huh.
better. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over there at
Okay.
some point.
Yeah.
Because I really want to apologize. I have had some things that have helped it become a little easier.
Uh-huh.
Just
Good.
like the GUI interface.
Uh-huh.
But
Just don't care for it, huh?
no. I want to make sure I'm doing it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I at the very least would like to go in and say, and I can write down the simplified ways of the terms. I have the sheet. I just want to, if there's any way of simplifying the terms, so that way I can memorize it.
Get it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. See what you got going on. That'd be a great idea because I'm sure they're really good at it.
That's
Mhm.
one thing that actually helps me a lot too. Is
Mhm.
like even in English class, which I was actually very, very good with that
Mhm.
stuff, and I didn't do as well in math when I started. Based on what I was scoring with, I actually
Mhm.
did the highest score was my English and sciences.
Mhm.
But
You like to just categorize things.
but it was but one thing that always had helped me with that is always looking up definitions and things like that. I would constantly try to find definitions to words and things like that. And that's what kind of helps me with terminology
Yeah.
a lot. And
For sure.
yeah,
Mhm.
but I gotta say though, I'm impressed with how much I actually do know. With the prototypes I even made, I'm surprised how close I was to
Mhm.
even making it almost.
Looks great. I think they're all great. Well, and that's the thing with GitHub. It's really not that complicated. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's
Yeah.
sometimes you might be giving it more credit than what it deserves
Yeah.
for its abilities.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's just kind of a dumb little container system. So
Yeah.
it's not as smart as it acts like at first.
It's more like just a wireless storage.
Yeah, but you have to keep
So,
your stuff.
yeah.
So you guys gonna work together, or are you gonna do yours on your own, or what you decide?
I thought at this moment it would be better. At this moment, I thought it would be better if I could work on it on my own.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine.
Got a really firm start on it.
Okay, good. If that seems better to you.
I wanted to apologize to them.
Mhm.
I also said congratulations.
Yeah, that's great.
You know,
Well, good deal.
I was just letting them know the reason I was wanting to continue with this solo is I've made it so far.
Uh-huh.
And frankly, I think it'd make things more complicated in this case.
Yeah.
So.
We're gonna use. There's a good He's got different. Bless you. This is just where he actually draws the stuff.
Rather than looking at where the program. I don't think that you may appreciate
Well, if you make a you need to go to single one right now. No, over here. And then you go back to your. You're going to you want to browse and select where you want the did you make that anything else on this folder?
No, I haven't.
We can make you select where that. I don't think there was somewhere you want to put it on the whole front. So you already. Sorry, I don't know. I think you sounds like you already did once every repository. So try to put that down that size. Did you download it? Did you download it? It looks like a soccer ball. So go ahead and find the whole stuff. I think this is material. And then go through that process of the repository because he's one sure you did that? Yeah. To play back on the repository.
Oh, I don't use it.
And then you find it. Yeah. Okay. So you're there. And you should and they pass it on the we shouldn't. Yeah, you should look like how it's
Physically.
yeah, like and so you share your results because of how it is. That is it's going to go nowhere. Tell you that there's updates to
Okay, so
has the amount of
Don't ever say
and so